G'day guys and welcome back to another video on my channel, Nintendo Down Under. The N64 Mini, the Nintendo 64 Classic. Would you still be interested? Would you still want it? Could it still happen? Let's cover all of this right now. In 2016, we saw the NES Classic get released worldwide, and it took Nintendo and the gaming world by storm as it sold like hotcakes and the demand could not be kept up. Then in 2017, the SNES Mini came out to absolute craziness. People were pre-ordering it, people were scalping it, it was nuts. Nintendo definitely allowed for more consoles this time because of the popularity of this system. And then we thought for sure in 2018 we would get the N64 Classic in line with the timeline, but it never happened. 2019, 2020, 2021, and now 2022, we are still without the N64 Mini Classic. So will it ever happen? Let's have a look back at the timeline. The SNES Mini and the NES Classic were absolutely essential for Nintendo to get the popularity and Nintendo going again. The Wii U was, let's say, a fail, and they needed something to boost the sales. The Nintendo Switch is an absolute booming success, as we all know, so the priority for a N64 Classic definitely took a hit. And then certain questions were asked. Do we have the technology to do this? Is the emulating good enough to emulate these games on an N64 Classic? How can we fit that crazy, wacky looking N64 controller inside a small box? Will we have to sell them separately? Will there be different colors? What games and rights can we have? There are so many questions, but the demand and the speculation for leaks online, people said these games were coming out, it would be released at this time, it still hasn't happened. We go back not too long ago, Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pack finally gave us what a lot of people wanted. N64 games on a modern console with a modern TV. Really awesome to huge success. We know some of those games like Banjo-Kazooie, for example, is a very high in demand game for many years, and we thought we would never see it because of the rights. Banjo-Kazooie belongs to Rare. It's a Rare IP now that belongs to Microsoft. Rare's not with Nintendo anymore, it's with Microsoft. So Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, GoldenEye, Banjo-Tooie, Blast Corps, so many awesome games are with Rare, and Rare is with Xbox. But then Nintendo and Xbox came together and said, you know, we're gonna collaborate, we're gonna release Banjo-Kazooie and Smash, we're gonna release Banjo-Kazooie back on its home Nintendo console, which was so exciting and really was just so much awesomeness and meant heaps to me because it is my favorite game, and to play Banjo-Kazooie once again on a smart TV without stretched graphics was awesome. So now that we've got these awesome N64 games on our Nintendo Switch, does that mean the N64 Mini would still happen? Would you still be interested? Let's go back again a few more months at an investors meeting with investors in Nintendo. In that meeting they spoke about, yes, Nintendo, we do want to continue our home mini consoles. What does that mean? Does that mean a N64 Mini Classic console in the future? Does that mean a GameCube Mini Classic in the future? A Game Boy Color, a Wii, a Virtual Boy Mini? Who knows? All that we do know is Nintendo has not shut up shop yet. They are still interested in pursuing this in the future. We also know now that the emulating technology is good enough to emulate N64 games with what we are seeing on Switch Online. They have shown what they can do with the N64 controller. It can be sold separately. So that means the home mini console would have to be a bit cheaper because you don't get the controller comes separately. That could be a bit tricky though, because imagine if there wasn't enough controllers to the demand of the minis and people are buying minis but they can't get their hands on controllers, and they got this awesome home console at home to play with no controller. So there's still a bit of an issue there how they would tackle that. And the N64 library has some of the best games ever made, but some of those best games ever made no longer belong to Nintendo. So that's always been a mystery with lots of people, that if they did a list of say 15, 20, 30 games, what games would they do? Because there might be some absolute banging, classic, awesome games missing from that list. But now we know that things can be collaborated, things can be worked out, because back then when people were making their list, they put an absolute fat, big texted line read across through games like Banjo-Kazooie because it wasn't a Nintendo IP, it's a rare Microsoft IP, but it is on the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack because that got worked out. There are other tricky games like some of the awesome Star Wars games like Rogue Squadron. You've got some of the best wrestling games on WWF, Mercy and there's just awesome games there. Some of the best sports games are on the N64 Mini. These games do not belong to Nintendo anymore, unfortunately. You've got a classic like GoldenEye. GoldenEye has been rumored to come to the Xbox X and Nintendo Switch Online for months now. It's gonna come, it's gonna be released here, it's gonna be released there. So much talk, and when there's smoke there's fire. I think the Russian conflict has slowed that down because the GoldenEye game is so Soviet plot heavy, sort of, I don't know, it's a bit tricky, that one. So Nintendo or Microsoft, whoever wants to release that game, might put that on the back burner. But if that does get released to Nintendo Switch, and it shows that if they do an N64 Mini one day, a game like that can be released as well. And then if games like Conker's Bad Fur Day and Banjo-Tooie and Diddy Kong Racing, they could be worked out as well. Diddy Kong Racing, yes, it has lots of rare IPs, but it's still a Nintendo game as well, so that could be worked on an N64 Mini Classic. The possibilities now with the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack coming to the Switch shows that things can happen. Nintendo's always one to push the boundaries with all their different handhelds and 3Ds and labos and circuits and crazy things they've done before, but I think they've calmed things down. They've calmed things down for one reason, because the Nintendo Switch is just such a successful console. It is making so much money, so all the energy, instead of spreading it out to little baskets, is put into one. So it shows things like the N64 Mini Classic, if it was put on their timeline, say, hey, we're going to release it in 2020 or 21 or 19, they think, well, we don't need to do this, we don't need to cut into our sales, because our main focus, we want our audience on the Nintendo Switch because it's doing so well. If the Nintendo Switch wasn't as successful, they'd be doing all these different things, and perhaps we would have seen an N64 Classic already. Maybe the end of Nintendo Switch's life near the end of 2024, early 2025, when the next gen Nintendo console is meant to be rumored to get people hyped on that. The Switch is slowing down now. People are waiting for the new release on the new console. They're not going out and buying a brand new Nintendo Switch anymore, because I don't want to spend money on a brand new Nintendo Switch when in 6 months time there's a next gen Nintendo console coming out. Perhaps then they might do a gap fill and say, hey everyone, we're bringing an N64 Classic Mini out. Please jump on board, look at all these awesome games. People might go crazy. Who knows, they might do it then. I don't think we're gonna see it anytime soon in terms of the next 6 to 12 months. But at the investors meeting, they said we still wanna do our minis. I think one day this definitely will be looked at and definitely will be released. We have seen the success of N64 games and the popularity, the nostalgic feel. People love it. Keep working out those rights, and who knows what could happen. Is the N64 Mini or Classic as appealing now though, because you've got these N64 games on your Nintendo Switch expansion? Some people though don't want to pay the extra price, and some people out there don't have a Nintendo Switch, not interested in modern gaming, but you might get Joe Blow who's turning 30 or 40 and remembers playing N64 games as a kid. He stopped playing when he was a teenager, he's not playing gaming now, but he thinks, hey, I used to play those games as a kid, and goes out and buys the N64 Mini Classic, plugs it in, and Nintendo Bang's got one of their old audience back, and he might realize, shit, I've missed playing gaming, I'm gonna get a new next gen Nintendo console or whatever. There is also that appeal and option and direction from Nintendo there. They can have a lot of fun with it. They could make different colors and special editions and different color controllers. Who knows, it could be awesome. Me personally, yes, if they did an N64 Mini Classic or special edition, whatever, I would 100% get it. I'd get the color variants. I would really enjoy it. Hopefully they put some different games that's not released at the moment on the N64 Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. They put these games on the Mini. It would be awesome. I would be so keen. But in the comments down below, let me know exactly what you think. Would you still be interested in buying this item? Do you think it still will happen? Love reading your feedback in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.